Okay, so we just renamed a whole bunch of stuff so that the names of the async services and well the services make sense. Now let's actually invoke them. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my service, and now well here I'm going to replace my ping method. Instead of ping, I'm going to call it create generation, and it's going to take a number of rows, a number of columns, and return back not an appointment book, but a generation. And what is it complaining about? It does not have a corresponding asynchronous variant. You are totally correct. Okay, so this guy I don't care about anymore. Actually, was there something else wrong with that previous? Nope, it's all happy now. Right, you see what I just did there? So there's remember the synchronous and asynchronous stuff. If I have, well, let's start off with the synchronous variant. I have a remote method called create generation, and I give it a number of rows and a number of columns and returns a generation. And this is what this is a synchronous call. This is what like a regular Java method would look like. But when I call it from GWT from the client, from the web, it's got to be an asynchronous call, meaning they fire off the arguments to the server, and then sometime later the result will arrive. And this way your application doesn't block, your UI doesn't block while it's waiting for something to be returned. So this will create a new generation. I'll give it rows and columns. It'll create a new generation. So this is the synchronous version. And so then if I look here at the async interface, I've got the asynchronous version of it. It's complaining that it's never used. That is correct.
Can you explain just real quick on the synchronous version? What is the little annotation?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
I know you talked about it.
Well, I'll reiterate it. So right, so you've got the synchronous version, you've got the asynchronous version. But in order for the client to call the server, it's really okay. Sorry, the synchronous version extends this remote service interface, and is implemented by this remote service servlet. It's a servlet, right? It's a URL that gets hit. And sorry, I gotta fix this real quick because it's driving me crazy. Implement methods, create generation, great, awesome. We never use ping, so we'll safe delete it. Sure. Yeah, do the refactor. I'll fix that later. Okay, sorry, back up again. The Game of Life service is a remote interface. This interface is implemented on the server side by something that extends remote service servlet, which is a servlet. A servlet has a URL, right? It's a URL that gets hit, and when that URL gets hit, this method, this class, this object, is invoked. The annotation on the synchronous interface tells GWT, oh, here is the servlet location. Here's the location of the servlet. And so when in your UI code, there we go, Game of Life UI, when I go and I call GWT create, I pass it the synchronous service. It looks at the annotation and says, okay, it's got this Game of Life annotation, and from it creates an object that implements the async interface that goes off and calls that URL. So the annotation tells the GWT create method, here's part of the URL that you'll go and hit. Got it? Okay. 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 So now we'll say service.create generation with our rows and our columns, and we have a new asynchronous callback of generation. Look at all that awesome stuff. On failure, we'll just simply do a window. No, we'll simply do a window.alert. Wrong. We'll simply do a window.alert of get message. Well, whatever. Good enough for now. On success, we'll get a generation. Okay, and so now we just created a generation. And we'll say, how about draw generation? Result. Yeah. And I'll create in the outer class. Okay, what's generate? You know what? Right now, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a window.alert. Generation result. Actually, let's do got. Can I do string.format? I think I can. Format. Say got generation dot a %d by %d generation with result.get number of rows, result.get number of columns. I don't like that name result. I want it to be called generation. Okay, so what I just do here, I made, and this we're going to comment out for a second. When I click the start button, click handler, on click. When I click the start button, when I call start game of life, it'll parse the rows and columns. It'll then make a remote call off to the server. It's an asynchronous remote call. So it'll send it rows and columns, and that will go off, call the server, create a new generation. And when it's done, the result will be delivered to this async callback implementation. So on success, when they're successful, there's a generation here. I'm going to call it generation. If there's a problem, I'm going to throw up a window alert. When it's successful, I'm going to say draw a generation and give it the generation. And then I'm going to throw up an alert to do that. Let's give it a whirl and see where we're at. Okay, reload all that. So let's have a 3x4 start. Nothing. Lots of stuff blew up. Oh, generation is not default instantiable. Must have a 0 argument constructor or no constructors at all. It has no custom serializer. Okay, right. Generation must have a 0 argument constructor. Where is generation?
So that.
Oh yeah, it must be serializable too. Yeah, what's up?
I was asking you about this. Sorry.
Yep.
That 0 argument constructor doesn't. I mean, like that's not going to be useful. Like if that ever got called, your program would blow up, right? Or wouldn't do what you wanted it to do, probably.
Right. Actually, I don't need to do that.
So what? Like you just do it because it just tells you you have to do it, and so you do it. That's it.
Well, I don't call it directly, but as part of serialization, it gets called. That's how so okay, right? So like when, and that leads in very well to what's like the next problem we're going to run into, I hope. This next problem. So I'll restart, and let's see here. Oh, what doesn't it like? Game of life UI. The method format is undefined. Oh, it doesn't have string.format after all. Okay. So now it blew up because of something else. I guess string.format is not supported in GRE emulation mode, and that's fine. I'll just do okay, nothing exploded yet. That's good to know. 3x4, start. Okay, now it exploded. Okay, so GWT serialization. We're passing objects back and forth between the client and the server. And there are some restrictions on the objects. One of them is that they must be serializable or implement the GWT serializable. So serializable means, well, serialize means you can take an object and turn it into a bunch of bytes. In this case, a bunch of characters, but whatever. Turn it into a bunch of bytes. And so we want to say that it implements serializable. And actually, serializable is a standard Java class. And it's also got to have a 0 argument constructor because basically it writes down to a bunch of bytes, sends it someplace else, and you want to read those bytes in. And what it does is it uses reflection to create the object using a zero argument constructor, and then uses reflection to populate the object. Don't worry that things are final. It does it the right way. Do you have a question, Ben? Or? No. Okay. Okay. So now I've made it serializable. We'll try it one more time. Okay, it loaded okay. No errors there. 3x4. Start. Yeah, it blew up. Application to add a date. Please click the refresh button in your browser. Blocked attempt to access interface blah, which is not implemented by blah. Oh. Game of life service. That interface that error message was interesting. It says that it's not implemented by it. Throws an unsupported operation exception, but it should be implemented by it. So I don't know what that was all about. Well, let's just fix this. New generation, rows, columns. I might need to restart. Enough things have changed that I might need to restart developer mode. That's going to be the next thing I'm going to try. Yeah, I'm going to restart developer mode. Gosh, let's quit out of this. Oh, interesting. Well, oh no, wait a second. Well, it looks like it made a lot of progress. Sharing client proxy, and it's complaining that these fields aren't serialized. Oh, because they're final. Okay, I'll take the final off of them. Fine, be that way. I like having them final because they're only assigned in the constructor. So it's like, why bother? Well, they ought to be final because they're never going to get changed. But I guess in order to serialize them, they aren't supposed to be final. Okay, one more time on the reload. And if this doesn't work, let's see here. Nothing, no problems there. Oops, come on. 3, 4, start. Nope. Okay, so now I'm gonna quit out of this. And I'm going to do a Maven Clean. And then I'm going to do a GWT run again. Oops. There we go. So now everybody's kind of happy there. Start. Yay! Okay. Okay. So in that case, I just need to restart. That's one of the things that happens, right? So restart dev mode when things have changed a lot, or if you're getting like kind of errors you don't understand. One thing to try is to restart dev mode. Okay, got a 3x5 generation. Good to know. Okay. So what do we need to do now? Now we've got that generation. Actually, let's commit. So let's see here. What have we done? Let's go through and review again. Here, we renamed some stuff. We created a new create generation. So we renamed ping create generation. More stuff there. Here's where we actually make the remote call in our client code. We needed to make some changes to generation in order to do it. And here is where we implement the new generation to create it. And that's that. Okay, so this will be make a remote call to create a generation. Okay, so now let's display the newly created generation. So draw a generation. Excuse me. Int rows, oops, equals generation dot, no, generation dot get number of rows. Int columns equals generation dot get number of columns. Now I'm going to take this. I'm going to resize the grid. What does redraw grid do? I think I'm just going to inline redraw grid. So refactor inline. Inline all invocations. Oh wait, there are 2 occurrences of it? Where else is redraw grid used? Oh, so draw the initial grid? Right here. I'm going to change that to, instead of redraw grid, I'm going to call start game of life. Start game of life, and I'm going to put an initial value of each text box, rows.set set text to 5, oops, percent, and columns.set text to 5. Which I don't know if this is like the best thing to do, but I think it'll work. But I've got to do that after sort of set everything up. And here I want to have a grid of 0, 0.
When do you want to do it before you do the init?
It's probably not important that I do it before there. I was more worried about having it before I set the text, because it's gonna ask for the init widget. I don't think it has to be the last thing. Yeah, since start game of life doesn't like add anything more, I'm not terribly worried about it. I don't. Okay. So this will get okay. So actually, okay. And so now redraw grid should only be called one place. So now I'll inline it. There's only one occurrence of it. Let's go through and add it there. And now I want to say, okay, fine. I'll set the width and the height to that, and then I'll say the following: if generation.get cell state for row column equals, what is this, returns like a cell state object? Yeah, cell state dot alive, then set the style name to live, otherwise set it to dead, and set that. You know, I noticed that I create new simple panels every time. I probably don't need to be doing that, but I'll go through and optimize that later. Maybe that's one of the reasons why things are so slow, because it's creating a whole heck of a lot of DOM objects. Okay. So now let's just see what this does. Thinking about it. Okay. 5 by 6. Start. Okay, 5. Okay, so this seems to be doing the right thing. Can we make it bigger? Okay, cool. Right, understand what's going on here? All right, so when I click start, I do this draw generation thing. Okay, well, this is all very neat. But what I really want to do, well, okay, I guess one more thing. This, the generation isn't very interesting, right? They're all dead, because when you create a new generation, it's all dead. So let's go off and create a more interesting looking generation here in our create generation. Generation. And let's see here. Should we like randomly seed some live ones? Who
just say 0, 1, 0, 1 at the beginning, like I mean 1 dead, 1 live.
will that do anything interesting? I don't remember enough.
Figure out.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Okay, so let's see here. How best to do that? So, let's just, yeah, int row equals 0. Here we go again. Watch me type this. While row is less than generation.getRowCount. number of rows, row plus plus, for int column equals 0, while column less than generation. Okay, column count, or column plus plus. And then, oh, what?
Maybe if row plus column is even.
Yeah, try that. Then set it alive. Okay, let's see what this does. You know, by the way, I haven't pointed out to you, and maybe you guys don't really appreciate how it didn't seem to do what I expected. How nice it is that all you need to do is just hit refresh, like all this stuff magically happens. I don't know if you guys have done much web development before, but that's this is a much quicker turnaround.
Yeah, I was rerunning debugger.
Yeah. Okay, well, so this doesn't seem to be doing what I expected it to.
It's even better than the last project where we had to refresh every time we change code.
Mm-hmm. Still says that they're all dead. What did I do something wrong here? Just do it the other way. Boolean is alive equals true. And then we'll just, so instead of trying to be, this we'll just say if is alive, oops, then cell state alive, otherwise cell state dead, and then is alive equals not is alive. I wonder if it's not picking up the change in the back end. No, because it should hit the server the first time. Is it right? It hits the server the first time. So what's going on here? Well, let's run it in debug mode. GWT debug. So it compiles everything. It's saying it's waiting for me to connect on port 8000. Remote port 8000 to the future. Oops, might help if I set a breakpoint. Okay, now I need to reload this. Oops. Yeah. Oh, it hasn't started up yet. Have I connected? No, I have not. No, debug. There we go. Okay, now it's running. I haven't connected to my browser yet, so I'll reload here.
You have to write ask.
Nope. No, okay. What's going on here? I am attaching my IntelliJ debugger to GWT development mode on port 8000. So yeah, now we've got like multiple processes all happening at the same time here. Okay, so let's see here. I want to set a breakpoint here. I also want to set a breakpoint in my UI. Right here, I think. Oh, I wonder if this is messed up right here. Rows. Okay, well let's give it a try. Okay, so create generation. Actually, we'll just run to here. Let's see what generation looks like. Cell states. Alive, dead, alive, dead, alive, dead, alive, dead. Okay, so that all looks good. So now we'll continue running here, and we'll hit back here, and let's look what our look what our generation looks like. Cell states. Alive, dead, alive, dead, alive, dead, alive, dead. Okay. So okay, so alive, dead, alive, dead, alive, dead. So that should be okay. So let's get rid of that breakpoint. Continue on. I think I just needed to restart the server is what it was. Okay, so I made a server-side change. So I made a change to my servlet, and it didn't detect the change. Okay, well, interesting. Okay, this is good. Okay, so now I'm just going to mute all of my breakpoints. I'm going to just mute them all. Okay, go away. Thank you. I'm done. Oh, this is the button I meant to click.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Is Seam similar to this, where it's like JavaScript?
Seam. I tend to think not. Seam, from what I know of it, it has a mixture of languages. There's JavaScript, there's Java, there's some XML and HTML in there. I haven't used it much.
Yeah,
That's sort of like,
what's interface with the browser?
well, the browser is still the browser.
No, I know, but like is the code going? Because this compiles on JavaScript.
Right. I don't think Seam does that. I think Seam. Well, there is some stuff. I really don't know if it's not like another language is compiled into JavaScript. They have JavaScript that's bundled into an application. I see a distinction there, but yeah, I don't know much about Seam though, so I could be wrong on the details.
Every time you change anything, that was like server side of the game.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Restarting, and that's kind of what we're seeing here.
Restarting WebSphere is like.
And then there's restarting WebSphere. Yeah.
Which takes 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. This is looking better now. I'm happy with this. Let's commit it. What do we change? Oh, okay. Now we actually draw the newly created generation.
I don't understand why you have to restart the server. I've done server-side changes. I'm almost positive that I have.
And we did some too. So I'm a little confused by that one. I gotta admit. So maybe it didn't detect them, or it's like it only is like, oh, you added a new method, and actually let's try that right now. So this is the thing that draws the new one, but now I want to do something else when I start the game of life. In addition to going off and creating a new generation, I want to set up a GWT timer. Timer equals new timer. Oops. Yes, timer. And when this timer runs, I'm going to say draw next generation. And timer dot schedule repeating. Let's have it do it every second. Okay, so what timer does, well, and this is the GWT timer, right? Yep. Timer will go and, well, do something every so often. I'm just going to have it draw the next generation every so often. So what do I want draw next generation to do? Well, I want draw next generation to take the current generation and then call back to the server to have it, well, give me back the next one. So, sorry. So I need to go get myself the asynchronous service again. Or I can just have it, I can just pass it in there, I suppose. Nah. Okay, and actually I want to make the service, I want to make him a field. Or maybe her a field. I just never really thought about it that way, I guess. So that way I only need to like create it once. And actually this one, I want to initialize it in the constructor. Initialize it in constructor. Okay. And now I'm going to say service dot.
So you just made
Yep.
the async stuff member fields of class.
Yes. And I did that so that I only create it once. There's no reason for me to create it multiple times. It's initialized here at the bottom of the constructor. Oops, and I should do that before I try to start the game of life. That's bad. Come on, move it up. There you go. I probably should do that pretty early on, but no, that's cool. Okay. Yeah, man, that's a bunch of code there. Okay, and draw next generation. So, get next generation. I need to pass it the current generation, which means I should probably store. Who calls draw generation? Draw next generation. Where is the create generation? This guy right here. So before I draw the generation, I should. I'm going to store the generation, the current generation. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I don't want the generation there. I want to create field, but not in the inner class. Boo hiss. Sorry, I want to create the generation. Oh, because I said this dot generation. I want generation up there. It says it's not used because I said this dot generation. What I really want to say is the outer class, which is game of life UI dot this dot generation. There we go. Equals generation, and then draw generation. I'm going to get rid of that parameter and replace it. Oh, wait a second. I'm going to refactor and change the method signature. Refactor this. What does that do? Change signature. And I'm going to get. I want parameters. And I want to delete the parameter by doing this. There you go, refactor. Ta-da! That was cool. Okay, and so then I want to say get next generation from this dot generation with a new asynchronous callback with a generation. Implement me some methods. On failure, report. Wait a second. Report failure. Caught. And what's this dude up here? I'm just going to call this guy a method. Report failure. Okay, and on success, when I get the generation, I'm going to say game of life UI dot this dot generation equals result, and then I'm going to say that's the next one. I'm going to say draw generation. See what I just did right there? So. Draw next generation, what does it do? It goes off and it'll get the next generation. I'll ask the server, hey, what's the next generation? And then when that comes back, I'm going to set it to the current generation. That's being displayed by the UI, and I'm going to draw it. See, it's like now it's the same code to draw the generation, regardless of whether or not it's the first one or it's a descendant generation. You need to call this method here. Generation, okay. This guy, I need to create a synchronous version in that. Oops. Well, it doesn't blow up. Now I need to, implement it right here. And simply return generation dot get next generation.
So do you ever only need, or I mean, at least for the purpose of what we're going to be doing, one synchronous and one asynchronous class? Or the classes aren't synchronous?
One service?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that. There are two schools of thought. One is to have, you know, an asynchronous method for every communication you send back and forth. That doesn't really scale very well if you have, you know, lots of different parts of your UI and having these big interfaces and stuff. So people, one of the recommendations is that you use something called the command pattern, in which you have an object that basically represents your request and an object that represents your response, and you have a very generic remote method, which is like, here's, go do this command, send me back the response, and doing it that way. And so, and actually, there's lots of good articles and documentation on this design pattern, how to do it in GWT. It's really pretty well established. It's what I think we ended up using that in our GWT code at work. So that's so as your so what you'll see in this class is sort of the getting your feet wet with GWT. If you end up doing more with it, especially if you start building a very large application, these kinds of patterns, save you a lot of boilerplate code, save you a lot of time and effort, and make your code easier to understand. Cool. Okay, let's reload it and see where we're at. Oops. Okay, so yeah, it thinks things are out of sync, so let me just, okay. Let me just quit here. Incompatible remote service exception. Yeah, okay. It wasn't too happy. Oops, speaking of not too happy, it's taking forever for it to, there we go away. Okay, and now let's, well, I don't want to run in debug mode. We'll see if I need to. Yep, there it is. Well, that's kind of boring. Got to steady state real quick. Well, let's give it something bigger, something that's not square. Oops. Oh, it died. Okay, let's make a big one. Just thinking about it. It's working hard. You don't think? Yeah, 100 by 100 is probably pretty big. Let's see here. I probably can't really escape out of this. Let's put that in development mode. Okay, look how far it got. Yeah, now let's run it in web mode. Let's see here. Maven Clean Jetty Run War. Yeah, you can do that. It's two Maven goals. Yeah, that's what clean is a phase, but yeah. Oh, I like my machine. It's so faster than the old one. Localhost. Life. What the? Is that right? I gotta figure out the right URL. Nope. Yeah. Okay, so it's like that to steady state. Oh, died. Okay. Actually, we should. Oh.
You're at a static state.
Okay, nice. Let's do 10. Huh, it kind of moves faster than I thought. I thought we were only hitting these once every second. Wonder why it's sort of like.
Maybe it's like getting clogged up and then it comes through all at once.
Maybe. That's kind of interesting.
On your typical game of life machine, that's about how
Seems
fast it
to be
usually goes.
repeating a pattern.
I'm sorry, what? Yeah, I think it's really repeating a pattern, yeah. So, see, as you can see, it's much faster in web mode than it is in GWT mode. We're also sort of doing something that's, yeah, a little different from what yours would be doing. Okay, so let's do
I
like,
understand that, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But I think the computer's processing it when you say 1 second, it's not waiting the full second.
which doesn't make sense. It ought to.
Again,
Okay. Anyway, well, we could watch this all day. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So I think I've had enough. I need a stop button. I know. Let's reload. There you go. Okay. So then, what is this last set of changes all about? Oh yeah, get the next generation. Still like to know why schedule repeating somehow takes longer than a second. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, let me commit these last changes, and then we can talk about what's left. So okay, and so every second request the next generation, and draw it. And I think we're done. Just did. Yeah. Oops. I don't want that. Thank you. Push. Yep, so it should be up on GitHub. Let me go check. Oh, that's Game of Life. Yep, Game of Life GWT. There it is. So let me click post that to. Nice. Thanks, Sean. So GWT code from tonight's class. Yep. Okay. So I think that's as far as I want to go with the example. Questions? Did that help? Okay, good. So I guess what I really didn't touch on that much were like all the different kinds of widgets that you can have. Although buttons and text boxes probably get you started. We won't be displaying pretty moving pictures and stuff like that. I really want to try that 100 by 100. Let's turn up to 11. Yeah, it's a little too big. Well, whatever. Look how fast it is. Not that. There we go. So sort of the three basic steps: create your widgets, lay them out, and hook up event listeners. I took sort of a front to back approach where I wrote the UI first and wrote the back end code. That's just kind of the way I am. You can sort of write the back end and then move to the front end, but it doesn't usually work as well. Actually, this is what's kind of interesting. Let's see here. Things to sort of keep your eye on. Your code can get really gangly really quickly, and so here again, just like maybe some of you had a main method that was 400 lines long. Well, if you're not careful, you're going to end up with 1,000 lines of GWT code. Did it reach sort of a steady state? No, not quite yet. But anyway. Let's see here. And then there's also the GWT-RPC, invoking those remote methods, right? And so you've got this synchronous interface, and you've got the asynchronous variant of it, and that's implemented by the servlet. It's all wired together with that annotation. What else? I hope you have fun with this. I hope tonight's exercise sort of gave you an idea of what was possible, and I'll put it up on the on YouTube. So that you guys can go and review it if you like, if that's helpful. Yeah, anything else?
Is there a way we can download these from YouTube ourselves? Just in case if you're not connected to internet many times.
I don't remember if YouTube has a download option.
Yeah,
I mean, there's ways to do it, but
YouTube download it.
Only if it's licensed for that, of course.
What is that?
Only if it's licensed.
only if it's licensed for, which I think mine are. And let me know if you need me to license them differently. They're there for your benefit. 90-year-old Stan Lee gets kissed by Uma Thurman playing what's what's her face? How did I get here? And then let's see here. Yeah, my playlists. So like if I go to here are the lectures. So if I do this, can I download? Hi everyone. Hi. Welcome to the Getting Started with Job. Anyway, I don't see anything readily here, but let me know. But yes, there are ways of downloading from YouTube. Okay. We'll watch this. Is it still going? Still going.
Hasn't died yet.
Nope. Okay, so let's see here. This was the last sort of in-class time. Next week is the final exam. So the final exam is worth 12% of your grade. Yeah, sneeze, sorry. And so that's like what, like your project 4 was worth 12 points or something like that. So in the grand scheme of things, that's about like how much effort you should put in studying for it. There are 2 portions to the final exam. There's a written part and then there's an oral part. The exam is open book, open notes, but no electronic devices. So study real hard or make some index notes or kill a bunch of trees and print out the notes. You can bring books, but I don't want people on laptops or on cell phones or, Telegraph or whatever it is that you kids use these days. And the final exam is during regular class time, so maybe it's posted someplace. Oh, you go meet some different buildings at a different time. Forget it. We'll be back here, and I think but plan on being here for like the entire normal class time. So TiVo Felicity or whatever.
6 o'clock, though, not the
6 o'clock.
schedule.
Yeah, regular time. Yeah, yes, regular time. Okay.
So the exam will start at about 6?
Yes, yes. Regular class time for me. So regular class time at 6 o'clock. So yes, please be here promptly at 6.
Like generally what would we expect on just like the quizzes? Or?
The format is very similar to the quizzes. And as far as what is covered on it, anything that you did for your projects is fair game. So basically not the lectures from weeks 7 and 8, but lectures 1 through 6. And basically if you did it on your homework, that's fair game for the, if you did one of the projects, it's fair game for the final exam.
Like level of detail should we expect similar to the quizzes? Like you're not going to say which methods you need to implement if you're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, well, what can I say without giving too much away? There are certain APIs that we talked about, and I think there are certain APIs that I would expect you to use and become very familiar with by now. And I think, let's just say, maybe the names of classes is more important than names of methods, something like that. So, think about some of the APIs that we've talked about. What are the, sort of, I'm looking for classes, I'm not looking for, name all of the overloaded variants of the write method on an output stream. No, that's not very interesting. But, something like, what is an output stream? Or, what are some classes in the Java I/O API or something like that is more along the lines. Okay. Okay.
Do you have the last year's exam somewhere?
No. This isn't that kind of exam. And this is that's why it's only worth 12 points. It's, your grade is determined by your projects and by your quizzes and by your POAs. And so, I sent you guys the grade summaries, right? A lot of your grade has already been determined, and the the GWT project counts for more than your final exam. So if you've got a choice between spending hours and hours studying for the final exam or hours and hours working on the GWT project, work on the project. It'll benefit you more in many, many ways. Okay, awesome. Thank you all very much. We'll see you next week for the last episode of CS 410J.